A negative 40F? Not again! Man, how am I supposed to remember these stupid 29 important stupid dates? Stupid. Ugh!
Well, I can help you.
Ha, you're funny.
It's simple. Learn 29 days in one single day. It's easy if you roll with it and learn it my way. Just sit back, relax, and listen to me speak as I rap to the music and Sigurd puts down a beat. 10,000 years ago, the world was covered with snow, the waters wouldn't flow, and that's about all that we know. 5,000 years later, the minds of the people evolved, got greater. They both stuffed down on stone, and the words and ideas of the people became known. And after all these civilizations, Christ was given light. He was the wisest, the brightest, the bringer of light. AD 133 years later, he was crucified on the cross because they feared he was greater. Rome was built today. It didn't fall that fast either, but it fell anyway. Before this empire fell to the ground, it was no ordinary town, it was the greatest around. Fall of Constantinople, 1453, they were conquered by the Turks. Their cause was real noble, but it left the Ottomans looking like some jerks. Ooh, I mean Turk. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. He never thought of being in America like you. He thought he was in Asia, specifically India. And he took these Indians like they took slaves from Kenya. 29 important dates you must learn. If you don't, you're gonna crash and burn. Miss Bobby's class, yeah, that's the best. Learn these dates and you'll pass the test. 29 important dates you must learn. If you don't, you're gonna crash and burn. Miss Bobby's class, yeah, that's the best. Learn these dates and you'll pass the test. Now I'ma get back to the story I was rapping about before. It was the Spanish Armada in the English-Spanish War. The Spanish had 26,000 men on board, but the English had hundreds of ships in this story, so the battle in 1588 was kinda gory, and the Spanish just now were left, retreated, leaving England in the glory. Yeah, that was Jamestown in Virginia, then were no Africans, so you couldn't say it was a Kenya. This was the English settlement, the first that was American, it was in 1607, and it was uncharted land. Here's John Hancock and Benjamin Franklin, both helped America become a great nation, both signed the names on the 17 heavy shit, or the creation of the Declaration of Independence. To make the nation bigger, in 1803, we bought Louisiana from Napoleon. He was the ruler of the Frenchies, and Lewis and Clark explored his territory just for fun. Now the English was doubting our superiority, so they crossed the Atlantic Ocean and entered our territory. Fighting from 1812 to 1815, the Native Americans were the only people to intervene. There really wasn't a winner of this war, because the English were scared that we would win like we did before. Technically it was a stalemate. Nobody did win, because we pretty much ended the war shortly after it began. Mexican-American War. Here was the date, 1846 to 48, and then we got many states. Got it from the Treaty of Guadalupe. Hidalgo gave us California, Nevada, the rest of Colorado, Texas, Utah, New Mexico, and most of Arizona. We won this war so cold like a can of cream soda. The next war was against our own selves, till the sun was winning black people through hell. Thinking knew from 1861 to 65 that it wouldn't end more, so after the war we put Davis into hell. The kingdom of Spain was such a pain, it got too worked up over its Cuban game. 2 months of fighting in 1898, in the end our territorial gains were great. Fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee, nobody could do that till 1903. It was the Wright brothers who gave us the right to get onto our air machine and start our air flight. Dates you must learn. If you don't, you gotta crash and burn. Miss Bobby's class, yeah, that's the best. Learn these dates and you'll pass the test. 29 important dates you must learn. If you don't, you gotta crash and burn. Miss Bobby's class, yeah, that's the best. Learn these dates and you'll pass the test. Beginning of the 20th century, guess what's in store? You're right if you guess the First World War, 1914 to 1918. Central Powers and the Allies had cooled between 1920s. That's when the ladies got to vote, and the jazz music was the new type to promote, and the beer and alcohol couldn't go down the throat because prohibition stopped it going in and out on the boat. After all, we thought the bad things were past. 1929, the stock market crashed. America really wasn't the place to be because most people virtually lost everything. Things got worse in this chaotic procession. America now beats the Great Depression. You think from the 30s we learned a lesson, but the government spending money like they are still adolescents. Don't stop there, I still have more. It just got worse. A second world war, 1939 to 1945. We atomic bombed the Japanese, are looking to still alive. Germany fought against the Allies in the First World War, but out of Hitler wasn't enough. The Nazis still wanted more. They wanted Rome, Berlin, Tokyo, Axis. They were no match for the Allies. We trashed them. You won't believe how much happened in 1949. Communist China, the Russian bomb is a lot. The only good thing from here was that NATO was fought. But in 1950 we were faced with another war. Korea wanted to be exact, North against the South. North Korea wanted power, so they wanted to tap out the reason this war ended in 1953 was because the UN saved the South from communists and set it free. Now we're in our airplanes flying all over the place. This is all thanks to the Wright brothers' great. Then we looked up and we saw space. We wanted to fill in 1957, starting with Space City. 29 important dates you must learn. If you don't, you're gonna crash and burn. Miss Sophie's class, yeah, that's the best. Learn these dates and you'll pass the test. 29 important dates you must learn. If you don't, you're gonna crash and burn. Miss Sophie's class, yeah, that's the best. Learn these dates and you'll pass the test. Greensboro sit-ins, that's when the black kids sit in white seats and are asked to leave. They say, we will not move. You kick us out, you will get sued. The very next day they go out to protest. Man, those black people got some hair on their chest. In 1960 they stood up for what was right, paid their life. Dang, that's a heck of a price. Vietnam War in 1964, the communist community still wanted more. Same deal here, South against the North. We lost in 75, we couldn't win but communist war. In 87, the 750th anniversary of Berlin, Reagan challenged Gorbachev to bring the wall to an end. They brought it down in 1989. It was a symbol of freedom and everything turned out fine. Go for it in 1990 to 1991. He assaulted the Iraqi with Operation Death Storm. Troops in Germany and the Netherlands and Israel's help. We started 2 bomb war. This operation helped defend from Scum missiles too. And we divided everyone into 2 groups. One defending attacking the pine and attacking the front troops. And due to the time we gave Saddam Hussein the food. 29 important dates you must learn. If you don't, you're gonna crash and burn. Miss Sophie's class, yeah, that's the best. Learn these dates and you'll pass the test. 29 important dates you must learn. If you don't, you're gonna crash and burn. Miss Sophie's class, yeah, that's the best. Learn these dates and you'll pass the test. 29 important dates you must learn. Rap it a cappella, Joseph, cause it's your turn. I rap 27 dates, there are 2 left. So take a shot and do your best.
2001, I hate to say, the terrorists bombed the Twin Towers that day. 2 years later, we decided to fight back. 2003, we started a war with Iraq.
You fall down. Yeah.
You know, Joseph, this whole rapping thing doesn't really suit you.
Well, now that I think about it, the only thing that really suits me is, well, a suit.
Proudly sponsored by Taco Bell.
Think outside the bun.